Elon Musk once again blowing the whistle on his own company. He's blowing his own whistle. People, you heard it here first. The latest round of Twitter files dropping today, showing employees bending over backward to ban President Trump from the platform, even though many agreed he had not violated the rules. Prior document dumps showed staffers suppressing conservative accounts in a number of ways. Musk seems furious. He tweeted this weekend, quote, "Twitter is both a social media company and a crime scene." House Republicans say they're ready to roll out the red carpet for Musk to testify on what's going on there. But how far down this rabbit hole will the story go? Joining me now to discuss, independent journalist and Twitter suspension victim, Andy Ngo. Andy, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
So we've learned a lot about, I alluded to it a little earlier in the show, federal agencies working with executives at Twitter to silence speech and, help them figure out which accounts to shadow ban and which to amplify.
I think what's really disturbing is that in the name of so-called protecting democracy or fighting misinformation and disinformation, that Twitter under the prior regime was acting as if it was a authoritarian, tyrannical government. And we see how there were many rules where even when rules were not broken by various users and accounts, the people who were behind the decision-making found a way to nonetheless either silence or suppress certain topics from being discussed or to silence accounts. And that's what you would see in states where there are no rules of laws. They find the crime, they find the sin, even if the individual has broken no law.
Yes, and even though they had numerous rules, and it would take a lot of time to go over their terms of service, they still seem to be making things up as they went along. Because if there weren't clear violations, they would find ways, as you were saying, to impose sanctions on a violation, looking for an outlet. So you were banned in 2019. Did they ever let you know why you were banned or how long it was going to take for you to get reinstated by Twitter?
So Twitter's under the prior regime, and I think some of these rules are actually still in place currently, but basically truth-telling, depending on what it was, could actually lead one to get suspended. So for example, if you misgendered somebody, you could get, you were forced to delete that tweet in order to come back on. If you so-called dead name someone, and in the case of me, for example, in my reporting, I always report out prior legal names or known aliases of criminal suspects, and that in at least one instance have been found to be a violation of the so-called dead naming policy of a trans person. So you see here, it's like you can actually state an empirical truth or a statement of fact and still be found to be in violation of TOS previously. And one thing that I do want to say is that I think sensible people agree that there needs to be content moderation. Yes. I'm not arguing for a complete free-for-all. However, for content moderation to be legitimate, the rules have to be clear, and it has to, most importantly, be applied equally. And what I've seen in my reporting is that behind the scenes, when there was all this emphasis on suppressing or censoring conservative or right-wing accounts or ideas, there was all this looking away when far-left violent extremist accounts, and particularly Antifa, which is what I report on, use Twitter as part of its ecosystem to organize riots, promote riots, tell people what weapons to bring, tell people how
threaten
to
your life.
Avoid arrests. And crucially, if there are arrests, raising money through sharing links and accounts on Twitter.
And the Vice President of the United States happy to help bail you out if, in fact, you are engaged in any of those riots. Andy, keep us posted. I know that you've been reporting on this for quite some time. You saw a lot of this coming. And, Jack Dorsey lied to Congress when he said this stuff wasn't happening, when clearly there is now all this documentation. It certainly was. Andy Ngo, thank you.
My pleasure.